I'm Sarah and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet a spring Easter egg that can be a bunny or a baby chick. They're pretty much just stitched the same, and then we add a little extra detail with the beak and the bunny ears, and of course we have a little loop so we can hang them up. Now I do want to remind you that if you're going to make these as an actual hot pad, you're going to put something hot on them. You need to make them out of a cotton or a cotton blend. But if you're going to make them as decorations like I am, then acrylic yarns are fine. And we'll talk more about yarns in just a minute. Now, these little hot pads measure approximately 8 inches across and about 10 inches tall. And of course, I always say about because some of us stitch tighter than others. They might be a little shorter or a little smaller. But basically, they're 8 inches across and 10 inches long. They're super cute and fun to make. And they also make great gifts for the spring and Easter season. Now you can find the written pattern with lots of pictures to help you, and you'll find that down in the notes underneath this video. All right, let's talk about yarn. Now, like I said, if you're going to be using this to make an actual hot pad, that means putting something hot on it that you've just taken off the stove or out of the oven. It's a really good idea to use a cotton yarn. If you're going to be just using them for decorations like I am, then acrylic yarns are just fine. And as far as the weight, it needs to be a medium weight number 4 yarn. All right? So any medium weight number 4 yarn will work for this project. You're going to need about an ounce of your main color, and I'm using this purple. And then you'll need about an ounce of your top color, and I'm going to use white because I'm going to make a bunny and then show you how to do the beak and the ears so that you can make either one. And then of course you'll need a little bit of orange if you're going to make the beak for the baby chick. And then you need just a little bit of black or brown or whatever color you'd like to use for your eyes. And then of course the pink for the bunny's nose. And even though I've made these colors, get in your yarn stash and come up with all different colors that you would like to make. And they don't have to be pastel colors. They can be bright, they can be variegated, however you want to make your Easter egg hot pads. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You're going to need a pair of scissors, and then you'll also need a needle for weaving in your ends and sewing on your pieces. We're going to be starting at the bottom of our egg and work our way up to the top, forming the shape of the egg. So we're going to begin with our main color and make our slip knot and chain 17 chains. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Now you don't want to make this beginning chain too tight or your egg at the end will pucker a little bit. All right? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to begin by placing a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over and go through the second 2 loops. Now this chain 3 at the beginning here counts as 1 stitch, and then we stitched 1 double crochet in our chain, and we're going to continue stitching double crochets across. 1 double crochet in each of the chains across. I stitched 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and counting my chain 3, I have 15 double crochets. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work. And what we're going to do is we're going to place a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. Our chain 3 did count as a double crochet, but what we're doing is increasing by 1 at this end. And then we'll place 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. I've stitched a double crochet in each double crochet across, and when I reach this last stitch, I'm going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. There we go. And chain 3. So for row 2, we now have 17 double crochets. We started with 15 on row 1, and we increased by 1 at the beginning and 1 at the end, so we now have 17 double crochets on row 2. Chain 3 and turn. And now we're going to repeat that. We're going to place a second double crochet in our first stitch, which will increase us by 1 at the beginning, and then we're going to double crochet in each of the double crochets across and finish off with 2 double crochets at the end of the row. So again, we increased by 1 at the beginning. We stitched 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and then in our last stitch, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 3. And so for row 3, we have 19 double crochets. Again, we had 15, 17, and now we have 19 double crochets. And now for row 4, we're going to do that one more time. We're going to stitch a double crochet in the first stitch, which increases us by 1, 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across, and then again at the end of this row, we'll increase by 1 by stitching 2 double crochets in that last stitch. We increased by 1 at the beginning, double crochets across, and 2 double crochets in the last, and so for row 4 we have 21 double crochets. Chain 3 and turn. Now for row 5, we're not going to increase anymore. Our chain 3 counts as our first, and we're going to go in the next double crochet, and we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across. No more increasing on this row. So we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each stitch across. We'll have 21 stitches. Chain 3 and repeat 1 double crochet in each stitch across. And so for the next 2 rows, we're not increasing. 1 double crochet in each stitch across, chain 3, turn, and repeat. I have completed row 5 and row 6. And again, 1 double crochet in each stitch across, chain 3, turn, and 1 double crochet in each stitch across. Those 2 rows each have 21 double crochets. At the end of row 6, we're just going to chain 1 and turn. And that's because we're going to begin our shell stitches. In the first double crochet, because our chain 1 does not count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain, we're going to stitch a single crochet. We're going to skip the next stitch and stitch our shell stitch in the next. And our shell stitch is 3 double crochets in the same stitch. So 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to skip the next stitch and stitch a single crochet in the next. And this is what we're going to repeat across. Skip the next, shell stitch in the next, which again is 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. We'll skip the next double crochet and single crochet in the next. Skip the next and double crochet in the next. 1, 2, and 3 double crochets to form our shell stitch. Skip the next, single crochet in the next, skip the next, and shell stitch with those 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Skip the next, single crochet in the next, skip the next, and 3 double crochets for our shell stitch. 1, 2, 3. Skip the next and single crochet in that last stitch. And chain 1. And so what you'll have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shell stitches with single crochets in between for row 7. For row 8, we're going to be bringing in our color 2. So we'll put that over our hook and pull that through and go ahead and chain 1. I'm going to be leaving my color 1 attached. If it's easier for you to cut that, go right ahead. I'm just going to leave mine attached because we're going to be putting a trim and I can stitch over my trailed up yarns. Alright, so we chained 1 and turned. In this first single crochet, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now we're going to go to the 3rd double crochet of our first shell stitch and stitch a single crochet. Now we'll go to the single crochet between the next 2 shell stitches and stitch our shell stitch. Which is again 3 double crochets. And so this is our repeat working across. We'll single crochet in the top of that center double crochet of the next shell stitch. Then we'll stitch our shell stitch and the single crochet between the next 2. 1, 2, and 3 double crochets. Single crochet in the top of the center double crochet, and then shell stitch in the single crochet. 1, 2, and 3 double crochets. Single crochet. There we go. Alright, this brings us to our last shell stitch. We'll single crochet in the top of that center double crochet, and then in this last single crochet we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 1. And this is the way that row 8 should look. You're going to have 2 double crochets at the beginning and end. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 shells with single crochets in between. For row 9, we're going to be adding in a 3rd color. And I chose yellow because I think it looks nice with the lavender purple. So I'm going to bring it in and chain 1. There we go. We're going to turn our work, and you can see I'm still leaving on my color 2 and my color 1. Again, if you're more comfortable cutting those yarns, that is totally fine. You'll just have a few more ends you'll have to weave in. Now, for row 9, we're basically going to be repeating what we did on row 7. We're going to single crochet in that first double crochet, and then we're going to stitch a shell stitch in this first single crochet. And again, that is 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll single crochet in the center, double crochet of our next shell stitch, and stitch our shell stitch in the single crochet that's in between. And then we'll just repeat this across. Single crochet, shell stitch, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and then that leaves us at these last 2 double crochets, and we're going to skip that double crochet and single crochet in the last double crochet. And because I'm not going to be using this yellow again, it's just a pop of color, I'm going to go ahead and cut the yellow off. And we'll set that one aside because I won't need it anymore for this project. All right, so for row 9, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shell stitches with our single crochets in between. For row 10, I'm going to be bringing back in my color 1. And I'm going to chain 3 and turn. I'm going to move my yarns around a little, make sure they don't get twisted. And this is our last row of shell stitches. And basically we're going to be repeating what we did down here on this white row. We have a chain 3, we're going to double crochet in that single crochet, so we have those 2 together. We're going to single crochet in the middle double crochet of that next shell, and then we're going to shell stitch in the single crochet in between. And again, that's 3 double crochets. And then we're just going to repeat this across. Single crochet in the center double crochet of our next shell stitch, and 3 double crochets for our shell stitch in the next single crochet. Here's my last single crochet in my last shell stitch, and that brings us to the end where we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in that last single crochet. Now I'm finished with my color 1, so I'll go ahead and clip that one. And the only one that's still attached is my color 2, which is going to be the top of my egg. Now for row 10, you have 2 double crochets at the beginning and end. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 shell stitches with your single crochets in between. All right, for row 11, I'm going to bring back in my white, which is my color 2, which is going to be the top of my egg. And I'm going to chain 1, make sure everything's snug down, and turn. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch across to form an even row in order to stitch our double crochets for the top of our egg. So we're going to stitch a single crochet in these 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Now we're going to stitch a double crochet in the single crochet. That brings us to our shell stitch, and we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in those 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. That brings us to our single crochet, and we're going to stitch a double crochet in the single crochet. And then we'll repeat this, working all the way across. 1 single crochet in the 3 double crochets of our shell stitch, and then double crochet in the single crochet. And see how that evens that out so it's a nice even row. All right, let's finish up this row. 1 single crochet in these 3 double crochets, double crochet in the single crochet, and then we'll finish off with 1 single crochet in these last 2 double crochets, and chain 3. So now we're back to having 21 stitches across. Chain 3 and turn. And so for row 12, we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each stitch across. Our chain 3 counts as our first, so we'll start in the second and just stitch 1 double crochet in each of these stitches, working all the way across our row. We've stitched 21 double crochets across and chain 1, and that's important because we're going to begin our decrease stitches in order to form the top of our egg. So we'll turn our work, and what we're going to do is we're going to stitch what's called a decrease stitch, or stitching 2 double crochets together. Yarn over, go in the first stitch and pull up a loop. Then we'll go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. You'll have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through the first 3. Yarn over and go through the last 2. That's our stitching 2 double crochets together, or decrease stitch. And what we did is we stitched these 2 together, so we decreased by 1. Now we're going to double crochet in each stitch across. And when we get to the last 2 stitches, we're also again going to stitch a decrease stitch, or stitching 2 double crochets together. I stitched 1 double crochet in each stitch across till I reach those last 2 stitches, and now I'm going to stitch a double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, we'll go in the last stitch, pull up a loop. Again, we have 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over and go through the last 2, chain 1 and turn. So we had 21 and now we have 19 double crochets. All right, let's repeat what we just did. We're going to stitch double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together with the first 2 stitches, and then again 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets across until we reach those last 2 double crochets. And see how it's already starting to ease in for the shape of the egg? I stitched 1 double crochet in each stitch across till I reach those last 2 stitches, and again I'm going to stitch the last 2 together in a double crochet decrease. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to repeat this again. Double crochet decrease with the first 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and then again we'll do a double crochet decrease at the end of this row. We did our double crochet decrease, 1 stitch in each double crochet across, and we'll finish this row with another double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together, chain 1. So we'll stitch the first 2 stitches together in a double crochet decrease. There we go. 1 stitch in each of the double crochets across until we reach those last 2 double crochets. double crochet decrease, 1 double crochet in each stitch across till we reach those last 2, chain 1 and turn. And we'll repeat this for the last time. Double crochet decrease, stitching our 2 double crochets together, 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and then we'll stitch the last 2 together in a double crochet decrease, and we're finished stitching the shape of the top of our Easter egg, bunny or chick. And we're going to go ahead and weave this in, tie it off first, of course, and weave that in, and pull that to the back. And now we have the shape of our Easter egg. All right, now at this point what I usually do is I go ahead and I take my needle and weave those ends in, and you need to decide which side you want to be your front and your back. It's up to you, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to choose this for my front, so I'm going to go ahead and take my needle and weave all my ends in. So I've tidied up my Easter egg, I've weaved in all my ends, and I want to do my trim. So I'm going to take my color 1 and I'm going to join it over here. We want to join it here because we're going to use the color 1 to stitch our trim all the way around to over here. Then we'll change to our color 2 and stitch it, the remaining portion, and meet back over here. I like doing that because it makes the portion at the top stand out separate from the bottom. But if you want to do it all in one color, you certainly can. So now what we're going to do is we're going to evenly single crochet with our color 1 all the way around to reach back over here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch over my tail of yarn here. And to evenly single crochet, you want to try to go in the sides of the stitches and not the holes. And again, with using double crochet, there may be places where you'll have to stitch in the holes. But you want to try your best to stay in the sides of the stitches. And if you carried your yarn like I did, make sure you stitch over that yarn that you carried so it's caught inside that trim. All right, so now we're down to the double crochet portion, and we're just again going to work along, trying our best to stitch in the stitches themselves and not the holes. There is not a set number of stitches. You're just going to stitch around, make sure your stitches are close, but not too tight and not too far apart. All right, so we're just going to single crochet evenly around the bottom of our egg. I have stitched with my color 1. I joined over here and I stitched my single crochets all the way around till I reached back over here. I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm going to bring in my color 2. That way the top of my egg is the color that I want it to be. But again, you can continue on with the color if you want to. Alrighty, now I brought in my white, which is my color 1, and I'm just going to continue stitching along, evenly stitching single crochets all the way around the top of my egg until I reach back over here, and then we'll join and tie off. And then at that point you're going to have to decide, are you making a chick or a bunny? And I'm going to show you how to do both We'll make the bunny ears, and we'll make the little beak for the chick and the little cute eyes. I've single crocheted all the way around the top edge of my egg. I'm going to join to that first single crochet, and I'm out of yarn, so I'm going to join and tie off to the back, and then we'll take our needle and weave in those ends. So do you want your egg to be a bunny or a chick? The only difference is I'm going to show you how to make a little beak and attach it and do the eyes, and then I'll show you how to make the ears and attach it and how to make the little bunny face. It's super easy. The little beak is super easy to make. We're going to start with our orange yarn or whatever color you want your little beak to be, and we're going to make our slip knot, and we're going to chain 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop on our hook. Then in the next chain, we're going to stitch a single crochet. Then in the next stitch, we're going to stitch a half double crochet. Yarn over, go in, pull up the loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops. And then in the last chain, we're going to stitch a double crochet. And that's it. We're going to cut our yarn so we have enough yarn to attach it to our little chickie face. Tie that off, and you can see it's a nice little beak. Now, where you put your beak is up to you. You can tilt it up, make it sideways, go the other way. It's totally up to you how you want to add your beak. Let me grab my needle. And what I like to do, I'm going to go ahead and just set it this way because I think that's kind of cute, is I'm going to take that tail of yarn where I started, and I'm just going to go in and make a little stitch and push that to the back. All right, now I'm going to take the other end where I left myself more yarn, and I can attach it to the back the same way. And then I'm just going to stitch some stitches attaching the beak where I want it to lay. My needle came unthreaded. There we go. The key to getting it to lay nice is to make sure that you're stitching in stitches and not holes. We don't want that beak to slide through the holes, okay? All right, so I'm back over here, and I want to put a couple stitches in this end too so that it stays put. And I'll just come back down here where I started with the other one so that I can attach it in the back. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and do the no-no and make a little knot because I like the way that it attaches better. When it comes to appliques, I do use knots just a little bit. All right, so there's my beak, and I'm going to show you on the bunny how to make the eyes. Now I'm going to show you how to make the little bunny ears, how to add a little tab, and the face. You're going to begin with your color 1 color. I used lavender on this one, so I'm going to continue using that color. I'm going to make my slip knot, and I'm going to chain 20 chains. (15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20). Now we're going to go in the second chain from the hook and stitch a single crochet, and then we'll stitch a single crochet in each stitch across. One single crochet in each stitch across. I've stitched 1 single crochet in each chain across, and you're going to have 19 single crochets because we began in the second chain from the hook. We're going to now turn our work, and we'll be stitching down the other or opposite side of the chain. And we're just going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of those chains, working back down our row. One single crochet in each of the chains across, and then we'll join to our first single crochet. So I single crocheted in each stitch across. I'm going to join to that first single crochet where we started, and I'm going to cut my yarn. Now I'm going to grab my white color or my color 2. We're going to join that in. Oops, get the right stitch there, or the right string there, and chain 1. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move all the way around, stitching 1 single crochet in each of those single crochets around. One single crochet in each single crochet, working all the way around, and we'll join back over here to this first single crochet. I've single crocheted all the way around. You'll notice there's a little bit of a curl on this end, and when we join to our first single crochet over here, there'll also be a little bit of a curl. We're going to cut our yarn, pull that loop to the back. There we go. And now we've got a set of ears because we're going to pinch them together and attach them. But before we do that, we need to weave in all these ends. I've tidied up my ear, and I've got a piece of the lavender there, that orchid purple. And I'm going to thread that onto my needle. And the first thing we need to do is gather it up. So what I do is fold it in half, find the center. I do that. There we go. We're going to gather that up, and then I wrap this around again and gather it snugly. We want it to look like 2 ears. So I'm going to pull it again and snug that up. See, now I have 2 bunny ears. All right, let's go ahead and cut that off. And we're going to use our needle. We'll find the center. Now you need to go in between the double crochet row and the single crochet row and pull that in, and then you'll do the same thing over here. All right, then we'll turn this over, and we're going to tie that on in place nice and snugly. All right, you know I like to do 3 knots. And now my bunny has ears. Now because I'm using purple on this one, I'm going to make the nose purple. And it's kind of up to you where you want it. I like it about right here, and I want to make sure that I get it centered. And another thing, remember to go through stitches and not holes. And so I'm going to make a couple of stitches like this. I like to do 2 or 3 just so it gets a nice big nose. Okay, and then I'm just going to come down and make the bottom of the mouth. All right, so there's my bunny mouth. We'll weave that in back here. All right, let's make the eyes, and I want to show you on these. This one I made the eyes kind of going sideways. I thought it looked nice with the beak. This one I made the eyes go this way. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. I like using the black because I think it pops out and looks nice on there. But of course you can use other colors like blue or brown if you want to. And so what I want to do is come up in this stitch from behind. Kind of make them up a little. I like to do 3. And I kind of go in like that. And I went through the thread so that it'll stay put. And I'm going to go in between those stitches to try for it not to show through the front or the back when I'm coming through. So we're going through just the backs of those stitches. Alright, so now I need to make my other eye from the nose. There we go. I'm going to turn it this way. Oops. There we go. We'll come to the back. There we go. And I'm going to come back across here so that I can tie those together. I try to make as few stitches as I can, but sometimes there just isn't anything you can do. You're going to have to make some stitches in the back. Alright, so again, I'm tying 3 knots because I want to make sure they're going to stay put. Now, if you want to make a tie, you can. I like my hot pads to have a tie so I can hang them up because, you know, they're decoration. And so all you need to do is take your yarn that matches the top, chain 12, cut your yarn, leave enough to tie a knot. We're going to put these together and we're going to go right in the center. And so I'm going to pull through and grab one of the strings, and then I'll go in the next stitch that's in the center and pull that to the back as well. There we go. And again, we're just going to tie a knot so that it's going to stay put. So now I have 2 bunnies and an Easter chick all ready for spring and Easter celebrations.